developments.
Can we hold on just 1 second? I may be out of order, but wouldn't the people outside like to hear?
I think they would. Yeah.
Okay, I need you all to step aside just for a second. Just to step aside the door. Just.
Speech is called Growing Up Black. There was a time when we as a black people were in prisons and enslaved within the white community. But we have overcome, we think. You see, in today's world, we are getting killed by police officers that are white. And we're innocent sometimes, and sometimes we're guilty. But when they have us in handcuffs behind our back, why do they slam us on the ground when there's nothing that we can do? Just because I wear my hat like this doesn't mean I'm a gangster. I live my life to the fullest. I live my life for God. I cried out to God, why is it my generation that's going through this? I've lost family members, I lost friends. I even fell down to my knees and said, God, why us? He never answered. He waited. And I kept crying out, God, why us? Why my generation? Why do we have to go through this? But as I get up on my feet, and he shows us that we are the generation that has to take over. Because it wasn't just Martin Luther King generation that stood together for a stand. It's our generation that has to do the same. But see, my generation is quick to quote Martin Luther King quotes. But do we really know what he stood for? He stood for peace. But my generation is quick to pull out a gun. Why? I don't know. Why do we do these things to each other? One may say, why do the black community say Black Lives Matter? I heard a white man ask me that, and he said, but the blacks are killing each other. But it's in us that we have to take a stand. It's in us that we have to make a move. Because it's us that takes this generation behind us and bringing us with them. They're bringing us with them and we're bringing them with us. Why? Because we all are here to help each other. We're not here to throw each other under the bus because we've done some things that we don't understand and we've done some things that we've regretted. But it was my grandmothers and my grandfathers and my great-grandmothers and my great-grandfathers that stood for us in today. They sat on the back of the bus, not willingly, but now it's our generation that stands and we wait for the back seat. We wait to see if there's a back seat open. Why do we run to the back seat when there's a front seat open by the front door of the bus? We wait and we sit and we watch others as they commune. And when they communicate with each other, their dialogue is nigga this and nigga that. I've used it. I'm guilty of it. But why do we do it? I have no idea. It was before my time when the language was used. So as I turn my hat frontwards and I walk with dignity. Why do I walk with dignity? Because my mother and my father taught me to take a stand. They taught me to be myself. They taught me to do your best in all that you can do. You see, I was discriminated as a child. I was discriminated because I was black. I was discriminated because I have short arms. I was discriminated because I was a church boy. But it was me that they look at today. That little boy that they made fun of. That little boy that cried every night because he was made fun of. Is now the one that they look up to. They ask me for advice. Why do they ask me for advice? Because they know I stand for Christ. He is the leader. He is the guider of our life. So why do we choose to do the wrong thing? It's life. We're all human before we are religious. But you see, religion has got us to a place that we are so judgmental. I am guilty of it. We all are guilty of it in one way or another. But it's the generation like the older generation, like Aunt Catherine and different ones of that generation, and my great-grandmother Mary Edna Berry, that stood for us today so that we can have life and that our children's children can have life. I don't have any children yet, but one day maybe I will. And one day maybe I will be able to teach them what my father and my mother has taught me. And maybe one day I will teach them more than what my parents have taught me. You see, we stand for righteousness. We stand for Christ. So in order for us to stick with him, we must do the right thing. Living for Christ is not just a talk. It is a lifestyle. You see, I grew up in a holiness church. And all those times when I was younger, I thought that only Pentecostal people were going to heaven. Because that's just the way different ones were taught. But as I got older and I knew Christ for myself, I realized that Baptist, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Episcopal, AME, CME, all these Catholics and everyone that has joined together in one accord and one mindset, if you live for Christ, you can make it into the gates of heaven. But see, it's not the one that does the wrong that has to see us. They have to see God. So we must not be the judge, but we must be the ones to help them, to keep them from doing wrong. Yes, we may scold, and yes, we may whoop our children. But today, whoopings have come to a place where it's against the law. But one day, I can remember walking down the street with my father, and he asked me to hold a Pepsi bottle as he put his money in his pocket. And I walked and I said no. And he handed me the Pepsi bottle, and I dropped it on purpose. The next thing I knew, the bottle was upside my head.
Amen.
But you see, I wouldn't dare call the police like some of the children do today, because I respected my father in a way that I knew what I was doing. I knew I was wrong, so therefore I must be punished. But see, we don't understand punishment. We understand these things to be wrong. But I'm going back to the old school way that I was taught. Sometimes you might have to whoop your children in order to get them in line. Sometimes they need talking to. Sometimes even yelling at them is too much. But sometimes yelling at them is good for them, because they understand what you mean and they understand where you come from. But you see, today we live together. We don't live by the white man's rules. We live by each other's rules. Because you see, each other has put each other on a pedestal. I might put you on a pedestal, you might put me on a pedestal. But we must remain humble as a black people. You see, it's not about these things that we've done, and it's not about the things that we're going to do, or even that we're doing. We must come together, link arms like Martin Luther King did on the March of Washington. They stood for righteousness. They stood for peace. Can we just please go back to that? In peace.